Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Church Pew Sports. It is good to have you all with us as we connect sports to life and faith. And tonight we've got a couple of major topics that we will address, one of which is, of course, the Super Bowl because, well, it's the Thursday before the Super Bowl as we sit here recording. And the other is some news that came out in the state of Michigan not too long ago. I know that there are listeners all across the country, and for many of you, the news that broke in Michigan a few days ago has applied to your state for a little bit longer time, and we'll get into that here in the next few moments. Bill Hobson here, joined as always by David Collins, and Paul Miller is on the road. He's traveling, I think, like 6 different cities this month, so I don't know if we're going to get him on the podcast very much, but David, are you in official Super Bowl mode yet? Have you locked in your pregame plan?
I'll tell you what, I don't know where I'm watching it this year. It's weird because it's literally, I think one team was 81-1 to go to the Super Bowl. Another one was like 60-1. It's one of the most improbable Super Bowls by odds, but something about it's not grabbing me. Of course, I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it, but I don't really have a connection with either of the teams.
You're not game planning around the watch aspect of this yet.
No, and I don't care much for the Radio Row stuff and all that. Like, to me, give me the games. I don't need to hear people talk about the games. I know what I think about the games. I'm smarter than all of them. So there's no reason for me to listen to all that stuff.
If you're trying to tell me that you were not tuned in on the edge of your seat this afternoon when Kirk Herbstreit brought his dog onto the Dan Patrick Show, I'm not going to believe that for a second because we hardly ever get to see the dog.
Yeah, Peter was there. Yeah, he was Jim Rome show too. I think he did the rounds. Good. He did the car wash.
Nice. Well, we'll get into Super Bowl stuff here in just a couple of moments. But first, friend of mine, colleague of mine who has just done a fantastic job in the world of high school sports. His show is called State Champs. And he is the creator and executive producer of the State Champs Network. And for those of you maybe not familiar because you're listening in a different part of the country, Lorne Plante's show is like the preeminent authority and media presence in the world of high school sports in the state of Michigan. And Lorne, I'm not blowing smoke at you, with the major newspapers basically cutting back to covering only, wars and elections, there really isn't that dedication to covering high school athletes like there used to be. So I think in many ways, it's kind of like in my space in the golf world, I think we kind of have the space almost to ourselves. How you doing?
I am doing great, and I'll tell you what, it's almost been 25 years now.
Wow.
That we have had State Champs as an entity, co-creator. I don't want to take all the credit, that's for sure. There were others involved, but I'm still here, still standing, and we love what we do, and we really appreciate the fact that we get to keep doing it.
Yeah, you guys have a front row seat on some very hard, uncushioned bleachers across the state to cover these games as everybody sits on the old wooden slats and, brings along their own seat cushions. And David, we were talking off air. I had assumed ever since I've known you that you were a high school basketball stud, and you break the news tonight. You never played high school ball. You just went straight to college basketball.
Yeah, that's right. I played football and baseball in high school, and I couldn't make Forest Hills Northern here in Grand Rapids.
Oh, yeah?
That's where I went. I didn't make the team there. And then when I moved out to Pennsylvania to finish my junior and senior year of high school, I just decided not to go for it. But I was always good at it. And so when I went to college, I was like, yeah, I'll try out. And of course, I made the college team, but I couldn't make Forest Hills Northern's team while I was here. So
it's like
even though I was better than a lot of those players,
Is it a Michael Jordan story? Did you rise to greatness after being cut from the JV team as well?
I have not yet begun to peak, Bill. I still am out there playing ball, playing softball, whatever I can get my hands on. So the story is not over yet.
I like that. Okay, so Lorne, the reason that I bothered you and asked you to come on and record with us at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night is because of the news that the state of Michigan, the Michigan High School Athletic Association, announced that they were going to allow NIL, name, image, and likeness, revenue to go to high school athletes. And I know it's happened in other states.
47.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know it was that many. And I nearly fell off my chair when I heard that. And then I fell the rest of the way off the chair when I heard that Michigan was going to join in, given what we're seeing in the NIL space on the collegiate scope. So I want to give you the floor for a minute. talk about what you first thought when you heard the news and how you see this playing out.
Yeah, so like you, everyone here was shocked because it came right out of the blue. There was no preparation for this. It was just a press release, and immediately we were of the opinion that we have to get somebody from the MHSAA on the show right away. Luckily, we were midweek, so we were able to arrange it. So we had a conversation with Jeff Kimmerly, who is the director of communication there. And it was very enlightening, and it was good. And so because we all have a lot of opinions and hypotheticals and all of this, it was really important to just kind of slow it down, explain what actually happened, because a lot of the reaction has been driven by the word NIL and the rule itself. So if you want, I can tell you what the MHSAA actually did, and they expanded what they're calling personal branding activities. So instead of NIL, that's how they title it. NIL is the shorthand that everyone uses, but the wording matters because this is not about schools paying kids to play sports. It's about individual athletes allowed to do certain things with their own name, their image, their likeness, that they weren't allowed to do before, and it's very intentional now, but very intentionally narrow. So I think when people hear NIL, the brain immediately goes to the college football chaos, and that's really not just what this is. So if you'd like, I can tell you kind of some of the rules, what's allowed, what's not, in as plain and simple language as I can try.
Yeah, I would like that because go ahead, David.
No, I was going to say, like, the wording on the press release was specifically that the people that pay them can't be associated with the school in any way or can't be some kind of NIL collective. And I know that Bill had mentioned in past episodes that we've done, talking about how, like, well, they're not making money for the schools. No, this is just specifically for the kids to brand themselves through advertising deals, marketing, whatever it is. So none of that money will wind up with the schools, right? I mean, I guess because we've seen how NIL has worked in college, I have to imagine there's going to be loopholes and people finding ways to get money to players that they want to attract to their schools. So I'm wondering, what do you see as maybe some of the pitfalls? And then you can also go into a little bit about like what actually is in the statement that the MHSAA made.
Yeah, so I think it's easier if I just lay it out clearly, because I think once you understand the rules, a lot of the anxiety kind of goes away, because it's not a gray area policy. The MHSAA was very deliberate about drawing hard lines. So I'll tell you what's allowed. And under this rule, individual high school athletes can make money from their name, image, or likeness, but only through personal branding activities. So that includes things like social media endorsements, personal appearances, autograph signings, photo sessions, modeling, or selling merchandise. So the key word, like you brought up, is individual. These are one-on-one opportunities between a student and a third party, not teams, not schools. So if a kid has a social media following, which some of these kids have a huge social media following, and a business wants them to promote a product, that's allowed, and as long as they follow the rules. So this is really the heart of it, and where the guardrails really matter. Athletes cannot be paid on performance. So not points, not wins, not awards, not participation, because if it sounds like pay for play, it's not allowed. So schools cannot be involved in any way. Coaches can't arrange deals. Athletic directors can't arrange deals. School employees and boosters, more importantly, can't be involved. If it ties back to the school, then it's a real problem. So athletes can't wear the school uniforms, use their school logos or the mascots, or use school facilities, no locker rooms, no gyms, no fields, no game footage. NIL can't be used to influence where a student goes to school, transfers schools, or follows a coach. This is not a recruiting tool, period. So there are no collectives, no group deals, no everyone gets paid. This is not the college model, and it was never meant to be. So every NIL or personal branding deal has to be disclosed to the school and to the MHSAA. The MHSAA reviews and approves it. And if it's not disclosed, or if it violates the rules, the athlete's eligibility can be affected. And if a school knowingly allows something that breaks the rules, the MHSAA membership their MHSAA membership, meaning the school, can be jeopardized.
Okay, so a couple of questions about the practicality and the policing of all of this, right? We just came through a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, the high school football championships. And as is often the case, private schools dominate against the public schools, in large part. Why? Because they recruit. Okay, I mean, I've been living with that since I was in school in the 80s. It's just a reality. So what is the prohibition? Let's take a hypothetical case about a young power forward stud named David Collins from Grand Rapids. And he doesn't go to my school, but I happen to own a pizzeria in town. And my kids go to the other school across town, and they keep talking to me about this kid named Collins. And I'm pretty convinced that not only would he be really good at my school, but he'd probably move some pizzas for me. And he's all over TikTok and Instagram. And I somehow reach out to him and I go, hey, young Collins, got an idea for you. How about free pizzas for life, and we'll throw in extra pepperoni. So there's our deal. He's kind of naive, so he thinks that's actually a good deal. But there's a caveat to the whole thing, and that is we're going to kick that in just as soon as you come on over to East Side High and you join my kid's team. If David doesn't tell anybody that part, isn't this going to happen left and right?
It's a great question. And I believe that this is one of those things where we're going to have to see some real world examples play out in order for those to be figured out. I think they're going to need to be investigated. He's going to have to submit what the rule or what his offer is to the MHSAA. It's going to, again, have to be one-on-one. If it is a Christian school, right, where you can just transfer.
Yeah.
And there's not an issue, then it's going to be really hard to prove, in my opinion, that he isn't just going there because that was his choice and that was the family's choice. Maybe they joined the church, and so they want to be connected to that community. So as long as they can't tie it back, but if there's an email or if there's, texts that they can uncover, because they certainly can do an investigation on it. And if you've got nothing to hide, then you should have to reveal that. But that is really kind of where it stands right now. I don't have like a case study from other states to give you an example. However, because it's done in so many states, they've probably figured that out, and the MHSAA has a lot of examples that they can draw from.
And do they have the enforcement capacity there in Okemos to send out all right, you got to head over to Grand Rapids. We hear about this Collins kid. Go get him, Detective Bookman. I mean, how is this going to happen?
Right. So it's a great question, again, because you're asking questions that we all don't know.
Yeah.
This literally just landed last week. I think it's something that from a media perspective, we're going to look into. We certainly would love to have some ambassadors that one-on-one we can encourage, give them some state champs gear, pay them, get the deal all sorted through the MHSAA, and have them be a great ambassador for the brand. I mean, it's certainly something that we're going to explore, just because obviously if you're a student, especially a student athlete, and you have a lot of influence and you have a lot of followers. I mean, remember, we're not talking about the best players. Sometimes it's just somebody who's really great on TikTok, and they have a great audience and they have a great communication with their audience. People love them. People follow them. It's just like anything. So, again, this is a brand new scenario.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're all going to navigate together.
I have another hypothetical, but David, I'll let you go next. But when you ask your question, make sure you use me as the hypothetical stud athlete.
And let me just say one other thing, if I can, because I think one of the things is I believe, and the MHSAA believes, so I'm believing them in how they say it, is that I think it's going to affect a tiny percentage of athletes.
Yeah.
Overall. Yeah. In Michigan, I think there's roughly 180,000 high school athletes. At least that was the number they gave us. The overwhelming majority will never have an NIL opportunity, and that's okay. This was never meant to be widespread. The mission, I believe, of educational athletics really hasn't changed. So we're not talking about a wide swath of people.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. And we talked, first off, can the MHSAA run the NCAA? Because they seem to have things a little bit more figured out than what we're doing in college football, and especially. But I mean, like with NIL in college football, we didn't know what issues were going to arise until they arose. And so like the fun thing is to try to figure out like what situations may occur, what might happen. But you're right, until we actually get to that point and we see actual examples of it happening. Because I remember like with the Cavender twins, the girls basketball players in Miami, they were huge on TikTok and they ended up not trying to go to the WNBA. And like, they just were like, you know what, we're going to just do our own function here. So it's fascinating to me to think about like what launch points this is for certain people, for certain students. And then like other casualties in the NCAA, like the NIL and the transfer portal, is people don't talk about it, but about anywhere from 20 to 30% of kids that actually enter the transfer portal in college sports actually get another NIL deal with another school. So there's so much going on here. So I guess I was just wondering, is there anything you're curious about specifically, again, pitfall related, like stuff that may come up that's crossed your mind that we're going to have to work through? Or are you just kind of sitting here saying we're game for whatever happens?
Well, I am a realist, and I knew that this was coming down the line at some point, just because it's inevitable. If you look at a case like Bryce Underwood a year ago, #1 player in the nation here, he is, courted by so many, and this would have been an opportunity for some companies, brands, whatever, to deal with him one-on-one and, get him to be a pitch man for them or whatever it is, have an appearance, autograph session, whatever he would have done, they would have done that. And, so I'm of the opinion that this was inevitable. It was coming down the road. These kids, I mean, we have to understand they've grown up with social media. They are brands,
right.
And for the potential for some of them, and even for, because you kind of brought it up, Bill, in the beginning. Let's say I'm going to use an example just because I loved him so much as a player, was Brady Rose, who was from Muskegon Mona Shores, and a great quarterback, led his team to the state championship. He was a smaller guy, I think he ended up, I'm not sure exactly. I believe he ended up at Harvard maybe, but he ended up at a smaller college. But he was so loved by the community that I could totally see, Bob Demmer Ford, you picked the dealership in Grand Rapids, wanting to have Brady Rose to be there so kids could come and meet him and he could be an ambassador for, everything that they stand for, hot dogs and football. And Brady Rose is here to sign some autographs and throw the rock around with your kid.
Well,
I remember that going all the way back to like Drew Neitzel. I went to a Wyoming Park versus Paw Paw game just to see Drew Neitzel play.
Really?
And it was unbelievable. He put up the quietest, like 37 and 12, like whatever, 15 that I've ever seen. But I'm also starting to wonder if it's kind of a shock to us to see us like pay high school kids or whatever, which I think is good because it's their value. But like, international soccer has been doing this with club teams for how many years now, where every team has club teams and 14, U14 and U16 and so this isn't a concept that's totally brand new. It's just one that I think we're starting to see happen. And so it's going to be fascinating to see where it goes from here.
Well, it's also a unique examination of whether, as happens all the time, is whether those involved instantly try to find a way around. They try to find an opening in the wall as opposed to just saying, oh, this is pretty cool. Let's do it the right way. It seems like we've always got some of those, let's just say, creative minds involved in all of this. And I do think that there's a two-layered potential damage, and I'm just talking about from the integrity of schools and transfers and tampering and all of that. I'm going to play a quick soundbite from Dabo Sweeney. It has nothing to do with high school, but it has everything to do with frustrations over tampering, because I have a question about how this could go if somebody were so inclined.
Yeah, like there's tampering, and then there's blatant tampering. Tampering 101 is when you're talking to kids who aren't in the portal. Tampering 201 is when you've already negotiated the deal with the kids not in the portal. Tampering 301 is when you got a kid who's gone in the portal, signed somewhere, moved there, gone to classes, and you're texting them while they're in class. That's like a whole nother level of tampering. And it's total hypocrisy.
So does this new position in the state of Michigan lend itself to a university reaching out to a high school kid and having him or her become their ambassador? And now all of a sudden we're in this battle. It's Michigan versus Michigan State versus Duke. And Duke decides that this young David Collins kid would look awfully good walking around the hallways in some Duke gear as a permissible way to capitalize on his personal branding, PBA, whatever the A was in branding. Am I just overthinking this, Lorne, or are all of these avenues potential? I could see universities doing this as a precursor to their approved and sanctioned NIL.
Well, I can only tell you what the rule says. If it involves a school, it's not allowed. Now, is that just high school or does that relate to university? Right. If it involves performance, it's not allowed. If it involves recruiting, it's not allowed. If it's an individual athlete working with a third party completely separate from a school, that's where this lives. So, what I think is interesting, Bill, just to bring it to your expertise, is that I think if there's one spot that actually this makes a lot of sense, it's golf.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
really golf is individual by nature. It's already brand driven culturally. You don't need a uniform, a logo, or a team environment to tell a golf story. And golf especially, influence isn't really about winning anymore. It's about personality, consistency, and trust, right? So people follow golfers because they like how they think, how they approach the game, how they live, and not just because of a scorecard. So that will be interesting in some of, what some refer to as the country club sports, because there's a lot of apparel and things of that nature, which, have a lot of money and love to have somebody on the come up. That is
tennis too is a good example.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tennis, golf, you name it. And, for high school golfers, even it does line up naturally. They already think long term. Yeah. They already play year round. Golf is a sport you can play your entire life, right? So brands love that. Yeah. Golf also teaches, if you want to get into it, it teaches patience, integrity, self-regulation, which exactly the traits kids need to navigate NIL responsibly, because that's very important. It is put on the individual. And from a rule standpoint, it keeps everything clean. So content doesn't have to be tied to competition or schools at all.
Yeah, the only drawback is those poor guys playing in high school in Michigan are going to be, all their logos will be covered up because they're playing in March. But I've been beating that drum for about 30 years.
We've gone there. Yes,
I continue to lose that one. So, Lorne, before we let you go, do you have optimism that this program will be in compliance and in good shape a year from now as you're just kind of getting your feet wet in it? I'm curious to see how well regulated it is. What are your thoughts as somebody who lives in this genre of high school sports?
Well, I try to keep things, compartmentalized. I try to keep it, within what it is and what we know at the time. Is it a branding opportunity? Sure. But it's also a responsibility. So we're not looking at stats. We're looking at communication skills, maturity, and fit. I think that's what a lot of businesses will be looking at. The best influencers, which again is a big word, and it has a lot of weight in the world. Mm-hmm. The best influencers are usually the ones who aren't trying to be influencers. They're just authentic people. And it's about that connection. So the next year is really about learning, collecting data, seeing what works, doesn't work. I think that will take place. It's not going to change overnight, and it's not really supposed to. The goal isn't, I think, to stop opportunity. It's to guide it. So at the end of the day, NIL doesn't define a kid, character does. High school sports are still about education, growth, and community. That's what we celebrate every week on our show, Saturday mornings at 10:30 on Local 4, by the way. If you happen to be in the Detroit area, you can catch us on YouTube or Facebook as well if you don't catch the show there.
Yep.
Actually, we've got because of the Olympics, we've got a special primetime edition on Saturday night at 7 p.m.
Nice.
If you want to check that out. But it's just really, this rule, I believe, just acknowledges the world that kids already live in. And tries
value.
And tries to put guardrails around it. How you do business still matters more than the business you do. So It will teach, I think, a lot of life lessons to some of these individuals that get a chance to, see what it's like on the business side. Because let's face it, if you are a high-end athlete, when you get to college, it's all going to be there anyway. This maybe gives you a chance to really feel it out and make some good decisions.
My prediction would be that the kids will do just fine, but somewhere along the lines, the adults will try to mess it up. That's where the boosters come in.
Yes.
Is much of the same thing that's happened at the collegiate level. David, if you had to kind of put a prediction on the table for how well this goes, what are your thoughts?
I mean, we're going to run into some pitfalls. There are going to be issues, but it does seem like, all the stuff I've read, it does seem like this is actually spelled out in a really good manner. And I like what Lorne's saying, putting that positive spin on it, because it does, and I never thought of that, but it does give these kids a couple of years maybe to learn some things before they head to college, where all of a sudden everything becomes a whole different ball game. So if you can get them financially smart and you can get them to make right decisions with sponsors, different things like that, then that hopefully will help them, which is what high school is about, right? It's one of the few places where there's still, and I'm saying this very lightly, but there's still some purity left in the sports. So hopefully this will actually help grow them, help them learn, which is what students should be doing. And then I hope to see this benefit people without a ton of pitfalls. But like I said, we got to stay open but cautious.
Yeah. And let me just say one final thing. From a state champs perspective, this is something that we have thought a lot about because we already live in this space.
Right.
And we tell stories about high school athletes every day. We understand the rules and what we can do. We understand the responsibility, and we understand that these are kids first. So if we step into this at all, it's not about performance or recruiting. It's about storytelling, education, trying to help athletes understand how to represent themselves the right way. That will be our end game for any involvement that we have with trying to get in this other space.
Love it. Well said. Before we let you go, your Super Bowl prediction officially on the Church Pew Sports record. Go right ahead.
Okay. I am Seattle all the way. I'm a guy who grew up on the West Coast. I have always, and from somebody, to be specific, I grew up in Los Angeles. So we have always had that very heated rivalry, East Coast, West Coast, and Boston was always the town, especially as a Lakers fan growing up. Lakers Boston, it was about as, heated as it can get. So that kind of crossed across, that kind of just fell across all sports. And again, why is New England back in the Super Bowl already? Can't our Lions just get a break? And so I've been here now, again, almost 26 years. So I feel like I am a true blood Michigander, and I love the Lions, and I'm ready for them to make some waves.
We all are. I'm wearing the hoodie now.
I know you are.
The only break the Lions get is like Aiden Hutchinson's shin,
his leg. Yes.
And Brian Branch that's the only breaks we get.
Hey, let me brag on Lorne's team for a minute here. State champs. They've got correspondents all over the state. They are diving into on-site coverage of highlights, of interviews, of features. And they've been doing it for a long time, and Lorne continues to fight the good fight. It's not an easy world to monetize, to get sponsorship for, but he's done it. So kudos on the primetime special coming up in Detroit on Channel 4, which is really cool. And we love what you're doing out there. Thank you for the insight on this new chapter in not NIL, PBA. What's the A for again?
Activities, personal branding activities.
All right, so euphemism for NIL, but we'll take it, and we'll see how it plays out. Lorne, thank you. Good to see you, man.
Okay, thanks, guys. Great being with you.
Yeah, good to see you too. And David, we'll kind of continue along and turn our attention to Sunday night, the big game. I know you've not been necessarily diving into all of it, but just first blush, where are you looking for this? What are you thinking? Is this a Seattle romp?
I think that's my initial feeling. My one problem is with Mike Vrabel. You make that guy feel for 1 ounce that he's an underdog, and they find a way to take your game plan, and they're going to try to drag the game into the mud. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try, defensively, they're going to be good. So to me, this game kind of comes and goes as Sam Darnold comes and goes, which is a statement I never thought I'd say in my life. But that's the reality. If Darnold plays the way game 1 against the Rams or whatever, he threw 4 picks and they almost won anyways, but they lost. Why? Because Sam Darnold was who we think Sam Darnold is. But then the most recent game against the Rams, he outplayed Stafford, even though Stafford was unbelievable. So that's kind of where I'm looking, because I think Seattle's defense is ridiculously good. I think the Patriots defense is very good. I think Drake May, the position players, obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba is unbelievable. But to me, it kind of comes and goes as Sam Darnold plays. And I think he's going to play well. I think the Seahawks will win, but this is going to be it's going to be a toss-up. Super Bowls rarely are the blowouts you think they might be.
Yeah, that's true. And it's weird because you'll hear players and coaches who have been to maybe more than one of them talk about the weird rhythms of a Super Bowl, the game itself, right? Halftime lasts forever. They're used to going in, being in there in the locker room for 7 or 8 minutes and then stretching and coming back out. They have a juice box, I'm sure. But now it's a good 30 to 40 minutes before there's action that resumes. And they always talk about that break in the rhythm, the added TV timeouts and all of that standing around time. And it's a very different cadence than the regular season is. And it seems like teams that would have some experience in that setting would have the advantage. But here we are, as you said at the beginning of the program, with one team that was like 80-1 and one that was 67-1 or something like that to even be in this game. And they don't come loaded with a lot of Super Bowl veteran experience from coaching staff to players.
Yeah, and you talking about rhythm too. It's prep week because they have to do all these press appearances and all these. There is nothing normal about this, right. And they've all waited a week before Super Bowl week. So there's all this stuff that messes with your timing and your rhythm and the way that you're used to getting ready and prepared for games. Then you get in game and the flow is totally different. So yeah, there is a lot to be said about it. And that's why you kind of look at coaching in Super Bowls is such a big advantage for certain teams.
Yeah.
And Mike Vrabel, to me, gives the Patriots the edge because he's that kind of coach that's prepared. He's been there. How many times was he there? So I feel like they have an edge coaching. That's where you're kind of looking at it, is like, where's the coaching edge? I'd go there. Where's the defense edge? I'd go Seattle. Where's the skill position edge? Travion Diggs, Keyshawn Boutte, like these Boutte's emerged and he's been unbelievable. But you got to go with JSN and Kenneth Walker. It's like there's a lot of these advantages, and some of them kind of tilt it one way or the other. But I don't think there's a big enough tilt for this to wind up being a game that gets out of hand for either of those two teams.
I doubt that this has happened, but it would be fun to hear that it did. Is if Vrabel picked up the phone, called his old coach, and said, "How do I do this?" I mean, he's not going to do that, but I mean, you've got this resource, I would presume, at your disposal, even though, you can talk about the relationship between Belichick and the owner. I would think he and Vrabel would have a pretty cool relationship. I don't know. I would have a hard time refraining from reaching out to the Yoda of Super Bowl success.
And my guess is that he has, but I think the thing that we need to just mention is Seattle went to a couple of Super Bowls, had their run, and then they were down for a few years. The Patriots had their long 20-plus year run, then they were down for a few years, and both of them are back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So you look at teams like the Dolphins and the Lions and the Bengals did make a Super Bowl, but the Browns, it's like, how do certain teams justify staying as bad as they are for as long as they are? Like when you have these teams that had their runs, disappear, but they're already rebuilt and back. The Patriots have Drake May, who looks like he's going to be a problem for the next 12 years. Like the Seahawks seem like they can kind of interchange at quarterback. Geno had a great year last year, was terrible with the Raiders. Now Darnold comes in. Like how certain owners, GMs, and coaches keep their jobs for as long as they do, when it's very clear that if you're drafting right and getting the right guys in free agency that fit your system, you can turn this around faster than a lot of these teams do.
Yeah. There's we're a podcast about sports and faith and life. There's a really good sports business podcast hosted by Joe Pompliano. It's massive, and his social media following is massive. He is so good at diving into the business side of all aspects of sports. Earlier today, he comes out with this report. He says, I read the NFL's entire 154-page Super Bowl bid document. You want your city to host a Super Bowl. He says, and the details are wild. The NFL gets everything for free. They get the stadium. They get the hotel room. They get all the billboards. You pay for the security. They get the luxury seats, and the league keeps 100% of the ticket sales and pays zero in taxes. And the list goes on. It's got like 33 findings on this list. It's on Substack. Absolutely mind-blowing how the NFL has taken over during Super Bowl week, not just the attention of the sports world, but they've literally taken over the revenue machine in San Francisco for this game, and they'll do it again next year, wherever the game, they do it every year. And these cities just keep saying, yes, please take it all. Just please take it all. Wow. Did that catch you by surprise?
I mean, the commerce, this goes to like the Super Bowl halftime performer doesn't get paid by the NFL. Like it's literally just a publicity event for them. Yeah. But I mean, if you're a team that's especially, whether it's Miami or New Orleans or Dallas or LA or like, they're always, one of the stipulations that you do for teams that are up north is you better build a new stadium.
Right.
So Buffalo, I'm sure, will have one soon. Chicago will have one soon because they honor teams that get new stadiums. But like Detroit hosted one once they built the Ford Field. Like they had that Pittsburgh one with Jerome Bettis when they won it. Like it was like that's one of those stipulations. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. But the fact that they get tax exemption on top of all that. But I guess if you're not paying any of the money, then you're not being charged anything, so what taxes?
Man, you're taking in a lot of revenue. That was the part that really made my eyes bug open. I'm like, you're kidding me. They get out of it.
But if you're getting them to agree to give it to you without
Yeah.
anything on top of it. That means not only are you receiving it from the businesses and the cities that you're going to, those people are paying taxes on it, but the commerce levels, I mean, everything goes up. It's an economy behind these things. So
How about in the most intense taxed state in America, they carve out this exemption for the richest professional sports league in America? That blows my mind. I don't want to hear any more lectures about the 1% from anybody in San Francisco or California, knowing what they gave away. Your halftime plans. Have you ever cared about the halftime show? Do you care that Bad Bunny's going to be on? And will you sit down to watch that part of it?
So if it's somebody that I know and I listen to, or have, when Michael Jackson does it, I listen to it, different bands do it. I don't know anything really about Bad Bunny, even though he's the biggest, apparently, music star in the entire world.
He's not a good bunny. We know that.
What's that?
He's not a good bunny.
Yeah, he's a bad one.
It's in the name.
He has like these exploits with like WWE, like he's just kind of like a hugely popular figure, and he's polarizing because he just won the Grammy for best album, and it's like entirely in Spanish. Right. He's the first ever to have an entirely Spanish album win like the Grammy for album of the year. People have issues with like he wears a dress, he's flamboyant. Honestly, with me, like if it's an artist, like I don't care. Like people, Paul always talks about Caleb Williams painting his fingernails. None of that stuff means anything to me. I don't care. Yeah. Like that doesn't bother me. So I probably will tune in just to see, because I know that the discourse, like on X or Twitter or whatever you call it, and everyone's going to have their opinions about it. And to me, it's just kind of everything around the Super Bowl, the commercials, all that. It's me sitting there eating popcorn and seeing how obsessed everyone is with things that don't seem to matter all that much.
Okay, speaking of the culinary side of this, I think people, especially if they have gatherings. Now, I don't enjoy gatherings for the Super Bowl. I like to just watch it. And I'm having knee surgery tomorrow, so on Sunday, I'll just be watching it because I won't be able to go anywhere. But if you're able to draw up your ideal snack environment, it's halftime. I know it's not just popcorn. What is the David Collins, during the game and halftime, what do you want to be within arm's reach of at pretty much any given moment, snack-wise?
So my cousin Holly, like I usually, because her husband Josh, one of my best friends, is a huge Eagles fan. So I've watched the last several Super Bowls over there because, the Eagles. Yeah. She makes this buffalo chicken dip that is just fantastic. Like it's hearty, it's amazing. And then if I could choose something else, it would be my mom's chicken wings. She crisps them up really nice. They're delicious. So I'd go with a couple things like that, obviously snacks and just bean dip and chips and all that. I mean, I'm kind of game. I like the Super Bowl because it's not a meal game. It's all finger foods and snacks.
Is there room in that for ice cream? Do you take the time for a scoop of ice cream, or is it too much of a stop down and a capper? Like it feels like that's got to be post game.
No, I'm a firm believer in dessert stomach. Okay. Like everyone has dessert stomach. Yeah. So I'm not a big ice cream guy. I prefer like the thick chocolate brownies with chocolate chips or that type of thing. I'm less of a cold dessert guy than I am a warm dessert guy.
Interesting. We're learning a lot about you. Didn't play ball in high school, and now we've got this revelation. That's insightful. My perfect setup is there's a place about 15 minutes from where I live. It's called Baldwin's Smokehouse, and their brisket is ridiculous. The smokers are out back and all. So, and their sandwiches are gigantic. There's this gigantic brisket just piled up. So my hope and my plan is to have one of those on this side of me, and it'll take me fairly strong effort, kind of a Super Bowl effort, really, to get that thing all taken care of, as a champ would do. And then I wouldn't mind capping it all off. I've not been eating ice cream for the last couple of weeks. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so I might have to cap it off with a little bit of Mackinac Island fudge, or perhaps just good old-fashioned Moose Tracks, and see how that.
Well, Moose Tracks is unbelievable.
Yeah, you can't.
With Moose Tracks.
It's got everything in it, David.
So good.
It's got everything in it. I mean, we're
Some
about
warm chocolate syrup on top of that too. Get out of here.
Yeah, we're about to go into our holy discontent, but that will not be on it. I'm not going to allow, if anybody were to offer Moose Tracks as their holy discontent. Not going to happen on this show.
Nope.
It's edited out. Here we go.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
Well, since it's just the two of us, I'll let you go first.
Well, my holy discontent is going to be something that I've harped on a lot. We're coming up on the Olympics, and I just want to remind everybody that some years the Olympics picks countries that have sustainable like infrastructure and things like that. But while we're celebrating, let's just remember that most years they pick places because they're getting bribed to go there.
Yes.
And many people you don't know about die that are shipped in from other countries and things like that. I'm not going to, it's a family show, so I won't. But reports have surfaced before the Winter Olympics that alleged ski jumpers are injecting male part of their body with hyaluronic acid so they can fly a little bit farther. And so the World Anti-Doping Agency has vowed to investigate. Let me just say this. That is on the scale of things that are corrupt about the International Olympic Committee. That is like the lowest end. People injecting hyaluronic acid into their so that they can fly a little bit further on their ski jumps. Everybody enjoy the Olympics, but just keep in the back of your mind that the whole thing is totally corrupt.
You'll be both shocked and perhaps pleased that I did a little deep dive into that story because it came out a few days ago. And I'm like, why on earth would that make a ski jumper fly faster? Well, apparently there are very strict regulations on how tight the one piece, lycra or whatever they're wearing has to be. So you can't go out there like a goalie dressed in an overshaped jersey and form a parachute and fly all the way home. So it's got to be very, very form-fitting. And so I don't know who got this ball started, pardon me, but somebody decided that the only place left on the human anatomy to possibly expand the sail that you are forming as you're jumping off of the ski lift would be in that tender region. But you can't just add fabric there because it has to meet some standard of tight-fittedness. So they decided to seek out some way to enlarge the area
and lighten the load,
and thus increase the coverage space of the lycra. So in the history of Church Pew Sports, I'm going to let you rank these. We've had weights in fish. We hear that little clip in the beginning of the show. We've had cheating in chess. And now we've had the unique certain enlargement efforts in ski jumping. Rank them in order of most audacious efforts to cheat.
Is the cheating in chess the thing that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it was also inserted into a tender area where somebody not in the room was able to buzz something that the competitor had hidden, shall we say, much like prisoners would hide contraband. So we've got that. We've still got weights and fish. We've got cheating.
Weights and fish has to be last because, it's in fish.
Yeah,
not in
fair.
You. I would say I have a buddy of mine actually that I sent that story to, John Schwab, and the story about what the ski jumpers were doing, and he said he recently had bladder cancer, and he goes, I've had to deal with a catheter for like several years now, like inserting blah blah. He goes, there is very little that I can imagine is worse pain than that. So I'm putting that first.
That's fair.
And I'm sure after whatever procedure they're doing, they're going to be hugely popular in the Olympic Village. And then, so I guess in the middle, I'll put the chess because, again, bizarre way to decide you want to win a chess match. But well, I'm not kink shaming. If somebody likes that, that's
listen, as a former varsity chess player in high school, I know you didn't play your sport in high school, but I did. I could.
That's where you got your vertical jump?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You got to be mad athletic to play chess. We had to do push-ups when we made a bad move. So let that Bobby Knight story just resonate in your mind for a while. My holy discontent is David's Detroit Tigers and the Scoobel debacle. Now, In the end, good things are coming of this because for those of you who are not Tiger fans, the Tigers offered Skubal $19 million. He was requesting $32 million. The market would probably have given him $50 million. And I understand we're talking about funny money here, but this is for real. And in the history of arbitration, this was the largest single gap between the team's offer and the player's offer. There are reasons for that connected to Skubal's agent and maybe some bad faith non-negotiating. But in the end, Skubal, the arbitrator, probably needed between 2 and 2.6 seconds to decide this case, I would think. And he decided in Skubal's favor because in arbitration in baseball, it's not a happy medium. It's one figure or the other. And there was never a doubt that this was going to go Skubal's favor. The reason it's in my holy discontent is because not only are the Tigers now showing that they're going to spend some money, they went out and got another pitcher who's really good, and if all goes well, have a really good lineup. My holy discontent is, has there ever been a team with more Cy Youngs on its roster and not winning a World Series than our Tigers during the Verlander-Scherzer era and now during the Skubal era? Can we break that streak, please? Because this time, maybe through dumb luck or maybe through shrewd spending, I don't know which it is, the Tigers are loaded heading into spring training. Which way do you think this goes?
Yeah, I mean, I've often said that the 2006 to 2016 Tigers is the most underachieving stretch in the history of baseball for a team as good as they were. Yeah. They did make it to a couple World Series, but like to win one game in two separate World Series that were miles apart. I mean, the thing that saddens me is I believe with signing Valdez, which I love the signing. Scott Harris was going to be one of my that guys because I bashed him last time we were on here. I think it signals kind of the last run with this squad with Skubal on it. I don't think the Tigers are going to be able to compete in the market with him, But the interesting thing is, if MLB has a lockout next year, which is very likely because the owners want to institute a salary cap. They're frustrated with the Dodgers deferring payments, who I still hate the Dodgers. Like all these different things, like who knows what might come of it, where the salaries will end up, what the caps might be. So at the end of the season, if Skubal's still on the roster, and I think you ride him and Framber Valdez into hopefully a World Series, there could be a cap on what he's even allowed to get paid next season once the collective bargaining agreement is up and they actually have to meet. So there's a lot more to say in this story, but I think that this is going to be a fun year. I still wish we would have got Eugenio Suarez going to Cincinnati for $15 million for 1 year. Drives me insane because the Tigers need a third baseman and they need a right-handed bat that can hit with power. And you had him for 1 year, $15 million. And there's a lot of things I could go on and say, but I think it's going to wind up being a good season, and I can't wait for baseball to start.
Yeah, it's almost here. We got to get past the Super Bowl first, and then pitchers and catchers can then report and we can get moving. Let's move on to our That Guy.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
All right, I'll lead us off here. We sing the praises of somebody who's kind of doing something worth recognition. I'm going to change my That Guy from the one I had thought of earlier and even had a soundbite prepared for to a real blessing that a gentleman who did not have to do it brought my way. His name is Dave Lockhart. He's in Chicago. He has a TV show about golf in Chicago. We've known each other for years. He's always been really, really nice and just helpful. Long story short, here in the state of Michigan, FanDuel Sports, where our TV show is currently carried, it's about to go away. The Tigers have just informed FanDuel they're out, and pretty soon the Pistons and Wings will do the same thing, and that channel is going to go dark. So we've been scrambling for another outlet, and the Lord's really opened up some very cool doors for us. But I was talking with this gentleman, Dave, when we were together at the PGA merchandise show in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I said, "What are you doing for your Chicago broadcast outlet for your show?" And he said, "Oh, I switched last year to the network called Marquee Sports Network." I've never heard of it. He said, well, it's the network that the Cubs own and all of their games are on marquee. Okay, that's got some drawing power to it. And not only are they in that region, but they're in like 5 states across that region. Long story short, he gave me the contact info for his people, put in a good word, and our TV show will air on the Marquee Sports Network starting in May. And I'm just very thankful for it. And Dave, in this industry of broadcasting, there are a lot of competitors who never would have given me that answer. And he said, yeah, we could use more good quality programming in this golf space. So he was very glad for it all. And I'm just thankful that somebody had that thought that somebody else might be able to benefit from this info. So thank you, Dave. And he's that guy. What do you have?
So, I mean, like I said, I was going to talk about Scott Harris and the Tigers actually signing a big free agent, the best pitcher in the market. But since we've already talked a little bit about that, I just want to give a shout out to a sport and somebody that I don't think we really ever talk about, but Novak Djokovic.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that because, yes, he lost to Alcaraz, but he beat Sinner in an unbelievable match that no one thought he was going to win.
Yeah.
Came down to the end. The guy is... If he didn't come up in the air, he came up in the Federer and Nadal era and passed them both. It's unbelievable. The 24 majors, most in his sport, like most in tennis ever, more than Serena, more than Federer, more than Nadal. So, I mean, he was a guy that for a lot of years played the villain, played the heel, but he's eventually kind of come to a place where a lot of people have embraced him a little bit more because, my goodness, like you came through that era and walked away with more wins than the Claymaster Nadal and Federer, and you're going to wind up as the greatest tennis player of all time. I just thought it was really cool that he got through that Sinner match, even though I don't think he'll probably ever win another major. And congrats to Alcaraz for the career Grand Slam. That's awesome. But to see Djokovic, like kind of, what's the song say? I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yes.
That was the Joker on when he beat Sinner. That was phenomenal. So anyways, That's my tennis part for the show.
That's really good. And by the way, I lament the absence of dominant American tennis players because had the same exact thing happened
Andy Murray
with American players, it would be a very, very frequent topic of conversation. But because it's not American, we don't pay that much attention to it. But you're absolutely right. That's a very good call on your part. All right, let's wrap it up with a 3-minute message and a special word from Drake May.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Indeed. And with Paul Miller away, I'll take the 3-minute message. And right now, as we speak, in San Francisco, there is a young quarterback who is preparing to play in his first ever Super Bowl. He is fresh out of the wrapper, friends. Drake May is in the NFL for a cup of coffee, and suddenly he is in the brightest of spotlights. And so part of the Super Bowl week rhythm is a media night. It used to be on Tuesday. Now they moved it to Monday night. And it's basically where the players will sit at podiums in a large convention center or outdoors or however they did it this year. And media members will just kind of roam from one station to the next. And sometimes you'll hear ridiculous questions like Jimmy Kimmel's security guard always comes and asks stupid questions. But every once in a while, there's some really good stuff that happens, including our friend and frequent Church Pew Sports guest, Jason Romano from Sports Spectrum. They do such great work, and he's at the Super Bowl every year. And one of his correspondents got a chance to ask Drake May about the place that faith plays in his life as just a very high-profile NFL star.
It's a constant in my life, knowing that one of the best things about a football team is that there's other brothers on the team that are followers of Christ, and be able to share thoughts and sit down at chapel and listen to our chapel Mitch talk before a game is just so powerful. And realizing the night before a game that we're in here spreading the word and listening to the word and knowing that that's bigger than football has just been such a thing for me to lean on and take my thoughts away from football and know that, man, this is my purpose, and this is why I'm here on this stage today, and be able to shine light on others and get them to follow Jesus Christ is what I'm here for, and it's what God put me here to do.
I love that. I've become a fan of Drake, not necessarily because I'm not really a Patriot fan, but I just kind of like humble. I like humble and genuine. And all descriptions of him have been along those lines. Obviously, I've never met him, but it's been all positive. And I love the idea that no matter what it is, what your vocation is, no matter what your job is, no matter where your path goes from day to day, as a follower of Christ, you were put here for a reason, and that is to bring other people to Christ. So while he's literally at the top of the football world right now, I really enjoyed hearing that perspective, that he knows what his purpose is, and he also realizes that there is a confidence there that regardless of how the game turns out, he's in a good place. So my question for all of you as you listen to these last couple minutes of the podcast is, do you have that same level of confidence? Do you have that same sense of purpose, the ordained purpose? You don't have to be a pastor to win people to the Lord or to tell them about him. Where is your definition? I remember years ago when it might have been Brady, but it might have also been Aaron Rodgers after winning a Super Bowl. I can't remember which one it was. It was Brady. And he said, like the next day, he's like, is that it? I thought it would be so much more than that. And this is the literal pinnacle of what these guys put their bodies, their lives on the line for. And he had reached the pinnacle. He did it a bunch of times. But at one of those early Super Bowls afterwards, he said, that's really it. I get a feeling that Drake May, another comparative to that would be Scotty Scheffler, reached the pinnacle of his sport and has this perspective that is more eternal, that it's a bigger picture than just how I did in the competition. So my encouragement to all of you is to think in those terms. What did God put me here to do, and am I doing it? Appreciate you all listening. Thank you.
You got to also say on top of that, with Drake May and Sam Darnold, two quarterbacks that enter the pantheon of games that no Detroit quarterback has ever started.
Just unbelievable.
They're just adding to the list. It's piling up.
Until next year.
Yes.
Until next year. Yeah. We've never said that before.
Jared Goff. Jared.
Thanks for listening. Thanks to Lorne Plante from State Champs Network for joining us as well. And Paul Miller, travel safely out there wherever it is you are. And we will gather again next time with the next edition of Church Pew Sports.